When I first married Daniel, I knew I wasn't just gaining a husband, but also stepping into the life of his son, Ethan. Ethan was 16 when I officially became his stepmom, and like any teenager, he was going through that complicated phase of figuring out who he was, where he fit in the world, and how to navigate the stormy waters of growing up. To be honest, when I first met him, I was nervous. I wasn't sure if he would accept me, or if I would ever be able to earn his trust. But over time, little by little, we built a fragile but growing bond. We laughed over silly movies, shared dinners at the table, and sometimes even worked together on small house projects. I could see glimpses of the young man he was becoming, and I felt proud to play even a small part in his life. Still, there were moments when I noticed he seemed far away, lost in thought, distracted, almost as if something weighed on his mind. At first, I brushed it off as typical teenage behavior. After all, who wasn't moody at 16? But one evening, something happened that completely changed how I saw him and deepened the bond between us in ways I never expected. It started on a quiet Thursday afternoon. I had come home early from work, hoping to catch up on some household chores. Daniel was working late, so the house was unusually still. When I walked past Ethan's room, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. Inside, he sat at his desk, staring at his laptop with a furrowed brow, his hands hovering above the keyboard but not moving. He didn't notice me at first, and I almost walked on without saying anything. But something about his expression stopped me. He looked troubled, distracted, but not in the casual way a teenager might be when daydreaming. It was a heavy distraction, the kind that comes from something deeper. I gently knocked on the doorframe. "Hey, Ethan. Everything okay?" He jumped slightly and turned around, forcing a quick smile. "Oh, hey. Yeah, I'm fine." But it wasn't convincing. Not even a little. I stepped inside, keeping my voice soft. "You sure? You look like you've got a lot on your mind." He hesitated, biting his lip, before quickly closing the laptop. "It's nothing, really." I didn't want to push him, but I also knew brushing it off wouldn't help if something was wrong. "You know," I said, taking a seat on the edge of his bed, "when I was your age, I used to think no one would understand the things I was dealing with. But sometimes, just talking about it, even a little, can make things feel lighter." He stared at the floor, his shoulders tense. For a long moment, I thought he wasn't going to say anything. But then, to my surprise, he let out a heavy sigh. "It's just school," he muttered. "And everything." I leaned forward slightly. "Everything." He nodded, still not meeting my eyes. "My grades are slipping. Dad's been busy, and I don't want to disappoint him. I feel like everyone else has it figured out, and I'm just stuck. Distracted all the time. I try to focus, but I can't." Hearing those words broke something inside me. I remembered being that age, how overwhelming it felt to try to live up to expectations, to not let anyone down, and to constantly feel like you weren't enough. I placed a hand gently on his arm. "Ethan, you're not alone in this. You don't have to figure everything out right now. And your dad, he loves you more than anything. You're not disappointing him. Struggling doesn't mean you've failed. It just means you're human." For the first time, his eyes flicked up to mine, and I could see the raw vulnerability there. I don't want him to think I'm a screw-up." I shook my head firmly. "He could never think that. And neither do I. You're figuring things out, and that's part of growing up. The fact that you even care this much shows how strong you are." His shoulders relaxed slightly, and a small, genuine smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Thanks. I didn't think you'd understand." I smiled back. "I understand more than you think. And if you'll let me, I'd like to help." That moment was small, but it was the beginning of something bigger. Over the next few weeks, I started sitting with him after school, helping him organize his assignments, and just being there when he needed to vent. We developed a routine, not because I was trying to replace his mom, but because I cared about him as his own person. And slowly, I saw a change in him. The distracted, troubled look in his eyes began to fade, replaced with a spark of determination. He started opening up more, not just about school but about his dreams, his fears, and even the things he found funny. The surprise wasn't just that he confided in me, it was how much closer it brought us. I never expected to become such an important part of his journey, but I realized that sometimes the smallest moments can have the biggest impact. What I caught that day wasn't just distraction, it was a cry for help. And what happened next wasn't just surprising, it was life-changing for both of us.